I'm just here to drop something off.
They arrested her for impersonating a seal until a medal dropped from her bag. The desert sun scorched everything it touched. Flags whipped violently in the wind, and in the center of the base parade ground, 2 armed soldiers locked handcuffs around the wrists of a woman in a black shirt, her chin held high. She didn't resist. She didn't speak. But the fire in her eyes burned hotter than the sun overhead. Behind her, a small crowd of military officers whispered. Some stared, some laughed, but all of them believed the same thing. She was a fraud. A woman pretending to be one of them. A civilian playing soldier in sacred uniform. Then, as they searched her bag, a medal clinked onto the sand, and everything stopped. Before the day ended, a general would apologize, a commander's record would be quietly edited, and a legacy buried deep in classified files would resurface like a ghost. But what led to this moment? Why would someone who had earned the highest honor in silence let herself be arrested in front of an entire base? And why did she look almost relieved when the cuffs clicked shut? Her name was Isabel Torres. At least that's what the paperwork said now. For the last 3 years, she'd lived off the grid. No active assignments, no contact with former teammates, no records on file. She'd slipped out of the system with the precision only someone trained by Tier 1 operators could manage. To most, she didn't exist. To a select few, she was a ghost. And to one dead man, she had been a promise. A promise she had failed to keep. So when Isabel returned to the very base where it had all begun, unannounced, unrecognized, and uninvited, she knew exactly what she was walking into. They wouldn't remember her face. They'd question her right to be there. And someone would test her resolve. But that's what she wanted, because she had unfinished business. It started with a single question. "Ma'am, can I ask who authorized your access to the base?" Isabel stood calmly at the checkpoint, her bag slung over one shoulder. Her ID, a civilian contractor's badge, clipped loosely to her belt. "I'm just here to drop something off," she said, handing over a sealed envelope. But the young MP wasn't convinced. "I'm going to have to call this in." Within 10 minutes, 2 more officers arrived, then 5, then a major. Each one more certain than the last that she didn't belong. "You're impersonating a Navy SEAL," someone finally said. "That's a federal offense." Isabel didn't correct them. She didn't argue. She just stood there, still, silent, unshaken, until someone made the mistake of opening her bag. Inside the canvas pack, standard gear, a notebook, and one velvet case. It tumbled out when the guard yanked the zipper too hard. The case landed on the dirt, flipped open, and there it was, the Navy Cross. Not a replica, not a souvenir, the real thing, with a name etched into the base, Isabel M. Torres. The group went silent. Someone stammered, "Is this real?" The sergeant who'd barked the arrest order earlier suddenly looked like he'd swallowed gravel. But the damage had been done, and Isabel still said nothing, because the point hadn't been to prove them wrong. The point was to be noticed. Within an hour, she was escorted, not to a cell, but to a private office. A colonel waited there, sweating behind polished oak. "We didn't know," he said. "Your record is sealed." Isabel finally spoke. "That was the point. You disappeared, after Kabul, after Bravo 12, after we were left to die," she snapped. The colonel sat back. There it was, the wound. Isabel hadn't returned to reclaim honor or clear her name. She came to remind them of what they buried, of who they left behind, and of the price paid in silence. The envelope she dropped off. A posthumous Medal of Valor, signed and awarded but never delivered to the man who saved her life and died in her arms. The military buried it with red tape. She came to deliver it by hand. That night, Isabel walked out of the colonel's office with nothing in her hands. The envelope was gone. The medal handed over, her mission complete. But she didn't feel peace. Only the cold, bitter weight of knowing that no apology, no award, no ceremony could bring justice for what was lost. And worse, she knew they'd bury the truth again. Not in dirt, but in silence. As she reached the gate to leave, the same guard from earlier stopped her. I didn't know," he said. "I'm sorry for what I said back there." She looked at him, expression unreadable, then reached into her pocket and handed him something. Not the medal, not a weapon, just a photo, 4 people, dust-covered, laughing. One of them, her, barely recognizable in sand and sweat. "This is what real honor looks like," she said quietly. "It's not about medals, it's about memory." And then she walked into the desert. No uniform, no salute, no farewell. A week later, an unmarked package arrived at the Pentagon. Inside, a second Navy cross, the one that had fallen from Isabel's bag. No note. Just one inscription scratched into the back with a combat knife. "Earn this." To this day, no one knows where Isabel Torres went. Some say she disappeared into the mountains. Others say she joined a private recovery group helping stranded vets. A few whisper that she never stopped serving, just changed uniforms. But one thing is certain. She never needed the system's permission to be a hero. She just needed them to remember who the real ones were. If this story touched you, hit that like button and drop a karma in the comments below.